The 10 poorest countries in the world. The one ranked first is so impoverished that its people once used trillion-dollar bills as toilet paper and relied on the meat of dying elephants to survive. As of 2025, around 1.1 billion people worldwide still live in extreme poverty. That's roughly 1 in every 8 people surviving on less than $2.15 a day. Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia account for 83% of the global poor. In countries like Somalia and Yemen, prolonged conflict has pushed over 90% of the population to live on less than $1.20 a day. Child mortality rates there are as high as 81%. Hello, I'm V. Today, let's take a look at the 10 poorest countries on Earth. Places where the level of poverty might just make you feel incredibly fortunate for your current life circumstances. Number 10. Afghanistan. Afghanistan, a landlocked country at the crossroads of Central, West, and South Asia, is predominantly mountainous, with the Hindu Kush running through its entire terrain. Its capital, Kabul, is one of the highest capitals in the world. Once a key hub on the ancient Silk Road, Afghanistan boasts over 2,000 years of history, witnessing the rise of empires like Persia, Alexander the Great, Islamic caliphates, and colonial powers. Known as the Graveyard of Empires, Afghanistan has endured multiple invasions, including the Soviet invasion in 1979 and U.S. military intervention in 2001. In 2021, the Taliban regained control, with a population of about 41.13 million. Primarily Pashtun and Tajik, Afghanistan's tribal culture shapes its society, and Islam is the state religion. However, its deep poverty is rooted in a turbulent history. Afghanistan's GDP per capita in 2025 is just $434, with 34 million people living below the poverty line, many on less than $1 a day. Nearly 40 years of war have destroyed 75% of the country's infrastructure, while droughts have devastated agriculture. Food production in 2024 fell by 50%, leaving 11.6 million people food insecure. International sanctions and the freezing of $7 billion in assets have collapsed the banking system. Unemployment has soared to 40%, and 3 million children have dropped out of school to work. The healthcare and education systems are in shambles, with adult literacy below 40%, and only 30% for women. Half the population depends on international aid, and preventable diseases spread rapidly. Despite $3 trillion in mineral wealth and geopolitical importance, ongoing conflict and poor governance have hindered development, keeping the nation trapped in a cycle of poverty and instability. Number 9. Madagascar. Located off the southeastern coast of Africa, Madagascar is an island nation with a land area of around 590,000 square kilometers and a population of about 27.7 million. Around 98% of its people are descendants of a mix between Southeast Asian migrants and African Banda peoples, making it the only African country predominantly inhabited by people of Asian descent. Infrastructure in Madagascar is extremely underdeveloped. The entire country has only 8 kilometers of dual-lane roads. In 2025, Madagascar's GDP per capita is just $454. About 75% of the population lives on less than $1.90 a day, and around 4.2 million people live in extreme poverty. During the colonial era, France exploited Madagascar's natural resources without building a proper industrial foundation. Since gaining independence, political instability and widespread corruption have stunted economic growth. In the drought-stricken South, some residents are forced to survive on cactus and locusts. Number 8. Malawi. Malawi is a landlocked country in southeastern Africa, covering about 118,000 square kilometers. It borders Tanzania, Zambia, and Mozambique, and is named after Lake Malawi, the third largest lake in Africa. Known as a warm heart of Africa, Malawi is rich in ecological resources. Lake Malawi and its surrounding national parks are famous for their diverse fish species and breathtaking scenery. However, a colonial past under German and British rule, followed by policy missteps after gaining independence in 1964, have left the country trapped in a cycle of poverty. By 2025, its per capita GDP is just $320, making it one of the least developed countries in the world. A severe drought in 2022 pushed 5 million people into famine, with some resorting to eating rats to survive. Malawi also has one of the highest HIV infection rates globally, around 10%. Malaria and infectious diseases are rampant, and public hospitals depend heavily on international aid. Due to a lack of medical equipment, surgical instruments are reused, leading to frequent cross-infections. Number 7. Somalia. Located in the Horn of Africa, Somalia borders the Gulf of Aden to the north and the Indian Ocean to the east. The country spans about 638,000 square kilometers and has a population of around 15 million, mostly from the Somali ethnic group. Islam is the state religion. Once a key hub along the ancient Silk Road, Somalia boasts the longest coastline in mainland Africa, about 3,300 kilometers, rich in fisheries. Livestock contributes to 40% of its GDP, and Somalia has the largest camel population in the world. But since the collapse of the central government in 1991, the country has endured over 3 decades of civil war and political fragmentation. Rival factions control various regions, such as Somaliland and Puntland, earning Somalia the grim label of a failed state. Its poverty is deeply intertwined with war, colonial legacies, and natural disasters. As of 2025, Somalia's per capita GDP is just $434. Around 70% of the population survives on less than $1.90 a day, and 11.6 million people face severe food insecurity. The average life expectancy is just 55.4 years, and the country has the second highest infant mortality rate globally. The national currency has collapsed. $1 is worth over 100 million Somali shillings. Number 6. Niger. Niger is a landlocked country in West Africa, spanning about 1.27 million square kilometers, with 80% of its territory covered by the Sahara Desert, making its environment extremely harsh. The population is around 26 million, but Niger has the highest fertility and population growth rates in the world. On average, each woman gives birth to 7.6 children, and the population is projected to reach 72 million by 2050. Once a core region of the ancient Songhai Empire, Niger was colonized by France and gained independence in 1960. Since then, it has experienced repeated military coups. In July 2023, a military junta overthrew the elected government and formed the pro-Russian alliance of Sahel states with Mali and Burkina Faso, expelling both French and U.S. troops. Economically, Niger is the world's 4th largest uranium producer, with uranium accounting for 70% of its export revenue. The country also has significant oil reserves, about 1 billion barrels, as well as gold and phosphate deposits. However, resource development has long been dominated by French companies, resulting in massive profit outflows. Despite its wealth in natural resources, Niger remains extremely poor. It also has the highest malaria infection rate in the world. A lack of healthcare has led to an infant and child mortality rate of 81%. In education, the adult literacy rate is below 30%, and a high rate of child marriage means that 50% of girls drop out of school before age 15. Number 5. Central African Republic. The Central African Republic is a landlocked country in Central Africa with a population of approximately 4.9 million, composed of over 60 ethnic groups. Around 70% of the population lives in remote, rural areas. Historically, the region was part of the ancient Songhai Empire and several sultanates before being colonized by France in the late 19th century. Since gaining independence in 1960, the country has experienced constant political turmoil, including the self-proclaimed Emperor Bokassa, 5 military coups, and 3 civil wars, falling into a vicious cycle of coups, dictatorship, and conflict. Outside the capital, Bangui, large parts of the country are controlled by rebel groups like Seleka. The security situation remains extremely unstable. Despite possessing the 3rd largest diamond reserves in Africa, estimated at 40 million carats, as well as uranium and gold, ongoing conflict has halted development. Many mining areas are under control of armed groups, turning natural resources into a financial lifeline for warlords. Due to the violence, around 886,000 people have been displaced, and 2.6 million rely on international humanitarian aid to survive. Number 4. Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, Africa's 2nd largest country by area, has a population of around 99 million and is rich in natural resources. It holds over 70% of the world's cobalt, vital for electric batteries, and its mineral wealth is valued at over $24 trillion, earning it the title the world's raw material warehouse. However, its history is scarred by colonization, dictatorship, and war. From Belgian exploitation in 1885 to Mobutu's rule, 1965 to 1997, and two brutal Congo wars, 1996 to 2003, instability persists. Today, over 300 armed groups operate in the east, including the M23 rebels who once seized the city of Goma. Despite its immense wealth, the benefits barely reach the people. 43% of profits go to multinationals, 28% to militias, 22% to state, and just 7% to the population. Mining makes up 90% of export revenue, yet the country has fewer than 3,000 kilometers of paved roads. Basic services are crumbling. The DRC has the world's highest malaria rate, an infant mortality rate of 81%, and over 5 million displaced people. Despite vast hydroelectric and agricultural potential, war has slashed food production by 50% since 2023, leaving 2.3 million dependent on international aid. Number 3. South Sudan. South Sudan, a landlocked country in northeastern Africa, became the world's youngest sovereign state in 2011 after gaining independence from Sudan. It spans 620,000 square kilometers with a population of 13 million, and its capital is Juba. Home to over 60 ethnic groups, mainly the Dinka and Nuer, it has abundant natural resources, including the longest stretch of the White Nile, 4.7 billion barrels of oil reserves, gold, iron, copper, 25 million hectares of arable land, and 29% forest coverage. However, despite its wealth, South Sudan remains one of the poorest countries. A civil war erupted in 2013, resulting in 380,000 deaths and displacing 1.9 million people. Today, 76% of the population depends on international aid. The economy relies heavily on oil, which accounts for 90% of government revenue. A 2024 disruption to oil pipelines through Sudan cut 75% of oil income, causing GDP to drop to $246 per capita, with 90% of the population living on less than $1.90 a day. Ongoing ethnic conflict and political instability prevent development, leaving the country trapped in poverty. Number 2. Burundi. Burundi is a small landlocked country in East Central Africa, covering about 28,000 square kilometers with a population of approximately 14.15 million. It has two capitals, Gitega as a political capital and Bujumbura as the economic hub. The country is dominated by mountainous plateaus, with an average elevation of 1,600 meters, earning it the nickname the Land of Hills. Despite having a tropical rainforest climate suitable for agriculture, less than 32% of its arable land is effectively utilized. Burundi's population is primarily composed of three ethnic groups, the Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa. Since gaining independence in 1962, the country has experienced 12 years of civil war and multiple coups, falling into a vicious cycle of coup, conflict, poverty. Although it possesses valuable resources such as cobalt and gold, and coffee accounts for 70% of its export revenue, political corruption has allowed elites to monopolize these profits. International sanctions have further isolated its economy. Number 1. Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, a landlocked country in southeastern Africa, spans 390,000 square kilometers and has a population of 17 million. Its capital, Harare, sits atop vast mineral wealth, including the world's second-largest platinum and diamond reserves, 13 million tons of gold, and significant lithium critical to clean energy. Once hailed as the breadbasket of southern Africa, Zimbabwe was Africa's second richest nation in the 1980s, thanks to robust agriculture and mining. But in 2000, a radical land reform seized white-owned farms, triggering the collapse of agriculture. Combined with Western sanctions and runaway inflation, the economy spiraled. In 2024, the newly launched ZiG currency, Zimbabwe Gold, quickly crashed from 1:1 to 1:33, 000 against the US dollar. Zimbabwe holds a world record for hyperinflation, issuing $100 trillion notes in 2008, when a soft drink cost trillions. The country abandoned its currency in 2009 in favor of the US dollar. While GDP per capita reached $1,592 in 2023, over 90% of people still live on less than $1 a day. Food self-sufficiency has vanished. As of 2024, 2.3 million rely on food aid, with some surviving on meat from dead, diseased elephants. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.